Thank you for tuning in to the only station giving you double the information and inspiration. WDRB Media and WGIV, the soul of Charlotte. This is Marriage Matters, and I'm your host, the Marriage Coach. Make sure you tune in every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. for tips and advice on all matters of marriage. Be sure to like us on Facebook by searching for Marriage Matters so that you can stay abreast of topics, ask questions, or comments during our interactive segment of Marriage Matters. Also, be sure to check out our website at www.ittakes2marriagecoaching.com for more information on our services. Our show sponsor for today's show is It Takes Two Marriage Coaching. It Takes Two provides individual marriage coaching as well as group marriage coaching through marriage retreats. Our show sponsor for this show is S. Hyatt Photography, serving the Lexington, Kentucky, and surrounding areas. Contact Sid Gentry by going to our website at shayatphotography.com. You can also find her on Facebook by searching for Photography by S. Hyatt, Hayat, or calling 859-552-3261. Now through December 15th, all portrait sessions booked will be $100, and that's a steal. That will include a 45-minute session on location with a disc with up to 20 images. This is a great opportunity to get updated family photos or to capture those special milestone moments. Make sure you check out S. Hyatt Photography. All right, so we're going to go on and jump right into this and get started today. Thank you to everyone who is tuning in. We've got some guests in the studio with us today because we're going to be having a very interesting conversation. And so today's topic is we're going to be talking about spirituality and its effects or not on our sexual lives now that we're married. I've got three married individuals in the studio with me today, and I'm going to allow each of them to introduce themselves. And before we get started, I just want to kind of preface, for the purpose of today's conversation, we're going to be referring to, from my angle, religion and spirituality. And I just want to kind of be specific of what I'm meaning when I say the two. So religion denotes a set of beliefs or a cause or a nature or a purpose of the universe, usually involving devotional or ritual observations and moral codes. And then in contrast, we got spirituality that can be defined more as just the quality of being a spiritual being, and then what other spiritual beings around you are involved in your life. And so that's going to be the angle that I'm going to be coming from, but I definitely want to hear from our guest in the studio with us today as to what perspective you're going to be speaking at when you're talking about your marriage. So if I could have each of you say your name, if you could let us know how many years you've been married, because of course this is Marriage Matters. So we're going to be talking about all matters of marriage. But how many years you've been married, and then just kind of your definition or your angle that you're going to be coming from in regards to spirituality. And anybody can go first.
Well, hello.
Hey, Tamara.
Hello. I'm Tamara, and I've been married 8 years.
Okay.
And when I think of religion, I also think of a set of code or ethics that most people look at as like a belief system. Mm-hmm. And so that's the angle I'll be coming from. I am raised Southern Baptist.
Okay. Okay.
And have ventured out since. I am still, believer in God, the Trinity and all. So that's definitely a big part of my life and my faith base. Mm-hmm. And when I think of spirituality, I do think of feeding my soul. And so that'll be the background that I'll be coming from.
Gotcha. So Southern Baptist.
Southern Baptist.
Okay, which I've only learned since I've been in North Carolina. Let me say, I didn't even know there was such thing as like a Southern Baptist. Or is there a Northern Baptist?
Mm-mm.
Midwestern?
No,
just a Southern Baptist.
Southern Baptist.
Okay.
Southern
all right, just
Baptist.
for clarity, because I didn't know anything about that. I've heard of Baptist, but never Southern.
And now I'm in the Baptist missionary.
Okay.
So they have all kinds, and I've studied religion, so it's a different, but yeah, form of belief system. So.
Right. Well, thank you for sharing, Ms. Tamara.
Yes.
Okay, my name is Shantia, and as for the spirituality aspect that I'm going to be, the paradigm I'll be viewing and approaching the subject of tonight's subject for, I I'm going to more so be talking about the relationship that you have with a higher power, or, I'm a therapist, a mental health therapist by trade. So I do believe in our whole spiritual selves, the biopsychosocial spiritual. So it's an important part. And for me, that's through the guise of Jesus Christ. But now I know for people who I deal with on a regular basis, and for everyone else, that may not be the case, but we're speaking from where we're coming from.
Absolutely.
And so mine is through
also
a Southern Baptist background, but I'm now non-denominational.
Okay. Okay. So you said Southern Baptist background, but now non-denominational. So we got our Southern Baptist, we got our non-denominational.
Well, Southern Baptist background. That's how I
Southern
grew up.
Baptist background.
I'm a Baptist missionary, but I mean, I'm just a spiritual person. So I do believe in Jesus Christ as my Savior, and so that hierarchy of the Trinity. So that is the main base.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And good afternoon or good evening.
Got our male in the house.
The only male at the table. Only male at the table. My name is Tyron. Let's see here. So, coming from, I guess, my point of view, my definition of spirituality is actually my personal belief system in the man above, who I call my father, and pretty much coming from the point of, actually, I'm not. I wouldn't call myself a religious person because I actually, like you said, religion is the belief of actually following a set of rules and standards and so forth. But I do find myself to be very, very spiritual. I pray every day. I have belief in, the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost. But grew up in the church, AME Zion. So I know I wasn't Baptist, Southern Baptist, or Missionary Baptist, or Kojic, but I've been to all different types of churches and different types of everything. So
Well, I'm actually glad that we have a variety. So, because I come from a Pentecostal background.
Oh.
Yes. So, and I guess, over the years, I've heard that also referred to as like holiness, apostolic. And I really don't know which one, to be honest. My church, we just referred like to ourselves as all of them. So that is my background, not currently what I practice today. I would consider myself actually also non-denominational, but definitely believe in God and Jesus Christ. And so I think we're going to have a good conversation then, because we're all coming from different angles, so this is great. So I want to start here. So, because I just want to talk about sex just for a moment. We're going to leave spirituality out of it for just for a few seconds. How comfortable are you all? Let's just rate. Let's just say on a scale from 1 to 5. How comfortable are you having conversations with your spouse about your actual sexual activity? So not just sex in general, but just specifically talking about what the two of you all share and your intimacy and what you actually do.
That's interesting. Because I know me and my spouse, Nicole, we actually, every now and then, I'm not gonna lie, I get fearful because I'm like, okay, are you bored? So I don't want to make sure that we have a good, healthy conversation to know. So I would say on a rate of 1 to 10, we're probably about a 9 because I ask, I talk, I try to figure out. We've talked about different things, all that positions and all that good stuff. So
y'all talking about, like deep conversations about it, like y'all go into I like this position over this position, and
sure
I like
do.
it when you do it that way and not when you do it that way.
She know what I like and I know what she likes.
Okay.
So
Y'all talk about trying new things too?
It was funny. We actually heard something on the radio about maybe 3 weeks ago that there's actually 600 and some odd different positions, and we need to figure out where's the other.
There's a book.
Yeah, where's the book? Because we only stuck on like maybe
other 6
4.
figures.
Yeah, I think
we
that's
need,
about all I got.
So we have a little conversation about about the different positions and everything. So.
Okay. So you have a pretty open relationship with your spouse.
Pretty much.
Which is awesome. All right,
There is a
other-
book.
There. Okay.
Uh-oh.
So
I need to get the book.
It is.
you gonna give us the name of the book? Share that.
I don't know the name,
Tidbit.
but
The Karma Sutra
Kama
book?
Sutra, yeah.
With all
maybe
the Indian-based?
I know it's got the pictures, like it gives you.
Either that one or The Joy of Sex. Either one of those.
It's one of the two, because I did look them up.
I need to write that one down.
Yes,
oh, you
it's
looking
interesting.
Them up, Ms. Tamara, okay.
It's very interesting. Yes, yes, I'm on a 10.
Okay.
Yes, I'm on a 10, maybe 10 plus.
Okay.
But I'm just comfortable talking. Period. I like talking,
Okay.
and I firmly believe that communication is key, like on anything.
Yeah.
I really do. Like some people, I talk too much, but I mean, you wouldn't know if I didn't tell you. So
Right. Now, is your husband, would you say he's equally as comfortable communicating
when it
with
comes
you
to
about
sex, yes.
Yeah, good. That's good stuff.
No, yeah. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
All
with
right, Shanti.
enthusiasm.
Right.
We like that. My spouse Anthony and I are very comfortable talking about sex. I would say we are also at a 10, but he has the terrible misfortune or blessing, however you look at it, of being married to a therapist. So we do talk.
Uh-huh.
That is a prerequisite to marrying a therapist. You must talk.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we talk about everything, even like strange fantasies and things that I had a dream. Come on, bring it. Even if I'm not in it, let's talk about it because I
Right.
want to know what you're thinking.
Even if
'Cause
you're not in it. Okay, wait a minute. You sparked the
gosh.
question.
Yeah. No, it hasn't actually happened.
Okay.
But like he when he watches Melissa Harris Perry, or I know who his girls are, Sanaa Lathan. I
Okay.
see that
I
little
know mine
twinkle
too.
in his eye.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm aware. Yeah, I'm aware.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Your husband called
attraction.
me.
Yeah, I do. Well, I'm like your husband. I have my own little Hollywood husbands that Maurice already know what's up. Like, you know, when Usher, if he's in town.
Mine's Trevor Noah.
Oh, I like him too. Okay, so now that I know that everybody's pretty comfortable having these conversations with your spouse, from the moment that you got married, because I know this is where you all are now, and maybe it was the same, I don't know, but that's what I'm curious about. From, rewind back to when you first got married, were you equally as comfortable then having these conversations as you are today, wherever you are in your marriage now?
Well, I've been married for going on 3 years, a little over 3. And I think we were. I think we've always been homie, lover, friends, where we are right now.
Okay.
As far as, anything intimate wise goes. So, yeah, we're at a 10, have always been.
I would say I've always been at a 10. Jason, my husband, wasn't always at the 10 about everything.
Okay.
Like, he was open to talking about things like positions or like, wanting to know what I wanted to do or like what I liked, but he wasn't quite as open about what he liked.
Okay.
Or those things, it was like I was supposed to be doing a guessing game or something. I was like, I need you to talk to me. Like you got to tell me if you like this or if you don't like this or,
Right.
like I don't want to think that you would like it and then like turn you off or something. I mean, because that's a bummer for both of us. But so I would say he had to grow into, and I think it was more so because a lot of times men sometimes may not think that females want to talk about that kind of thing or
Okay.
want to hear that. And so there's a hesitation. That's what I think.
Okay.
And so I had to let him know, I want to know. Like, we got to talk.
Yeah.
And, we got to share in order for it to be right. Because both of us got to be on the same page.
In order to keep it spicy.
Yes. Yes.
Interesting. Yeah, I would definitely say that from day one. Oh, I say from day one because obviously that'd be kind of awkward. But from when we were dating, I would say the conversation was definitely open, and that's where I mentioned about the nervousness. Not the nervousness of the conversation, but the nervousness of boredom. Where we talk about where that actually sparked more of a conversation, of I don't want you to be bored, what do you like, what don't you like, things like that. Those were, when we did our counseling pre-marriage, that was one of the things that we were encouraged to talk about, expectations.
Yep.
So expectations of, if I get bored, then this. So my question all the time is, are you bored? We need to try something different, just to make sure that she's good. So we've started that from, like I said, pre-marriage, during counseling and coaching way back when. And we've only been married, a little over 3 years as well, about 3.5 years.
Okay. And Ms. Tamara, how long for you?
8.
8 years. Okay. So this question
We
is
had
kind
that
of
Southern Baptist
and
counseling.
So you had Southern Baptist counseling, which might have been different than like AME Zion counseling. Okay. And actually, that's true.
It is.
Because we're gonna talk about that too. But so this is more like a yes or a no, and so I'm not gonna require everybody to answer. You just answer if you're comfortable to answer. Did you have premarital sex with your spouse?
I plead the fifth. No, I'm joking.
Yes.
I said if you're comfortable, only if you're comfortable.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
It depends on if my in-laws are listening.
I know.
No, we did. That's where the conversation came from. We did.
Okay. So conversations was occurring before sex or before marriage because you were already engaged in sex. All right. So now we're going to take it, just getting a little closer to now and talking about the spirituality. In your church, religion, spiritual walk, whatever your belief system is or was then when you married, was it okay or did you deem it okay? What were your feelings around sex before marriage?
Well, I would say, as far as like if I had asked someone in the church or even the minister or anything, they probably would have definitely said no. Mm-hmm. Absolutely not. You're supposed to abstain before you get married. But, I mean, the truth of the matter was I had my children before we got married.
Okay.
My husband had his daughter. I mean, we already did it.
Now, were you all married outside of each other or just had children outside of each other?
Well, I had children outside. My husband was married before and had his daughter through his marriage.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, and I'm a little different too because I always have been. I mean, I love the Father, and I've always been a spiritual being. I always read my word, and I believe in God, but I also believe in not boxing in God. Where I felt like in church and other ministries, that's how it would be delivered. Like you got to put it in this stance and it's got to be like that. And God doesn't allow you to do this, you're going to be punished. God don't allow you to do that, you're going to be punished. And I just believe God wants us to live life. I mean, we do have standards and we have guidelines that we have to follow. But I just never believed that he meant for you to be like bound but that's just me.
Okay, that's a good perspective.
Now, let me see. We had premarital counseling, but we did not have it through our church. We had it through Pfeiffer Institute of Marriage and Family Therapy because I am a therapist.
Okay.
And
that would make sense for y'all.
Yeah, it made sense for us. We were in a church at that time. And the teaching is clear. We are not supposed to be engaging. It is sinful for us to do so. But this is both of our Act 2s. He has a daughter in her 20s, and we had both been married before. So I said this is Act 2 for both of us. So obviously we are not virgins, and we're not virgins. And I just could not foresee, having the conversation of dating and marrying someone and not making sure we were compatible on that, right?
Not testing the waters.
I test drive it a little bit, and I would deal with, with my feelings with that, afterward. However, I do understand too that is sometimes the binding thing, as you say, for people, because when they are taught that dogma is you do not do that, and if you do, then that's sinful. Then you already have the weight of sex is sinful. And so it's hard to shift that paradigm once you get into a relationship where you're supposed to be doing it. Then it's, I should be doing this.
Right.
You still are thinking that same mentality, punishment and hell and burn fire and, yeah.
Yeah, and I was going to say, not even just sex is sinful. I know the way I grew up, it was, if you have sex before marriage, you're going to hell.
Right,
like,
that's what I wanted to say.
You're going to hell. I'm going to put you there. If I find out. If I find out you did anything, you're going to hell.
You going.
Let me be glad I ain't go to none of y'all church. No. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Yeah, of course, growing up, and I grew up Amy Zion. That's not where I am now, but I grew up Amy Zion. And my beliefs, my parents, everybody just say, hey, you're not supposed to have sex, those type of things. But we've never had those type of in-depth conversations other than what was actually taught in church. So yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Like you said, I felt a little guilty having premarital sex, but like I think everyone around this table, for the most part, this is Act 2 for us as well, and our final act.
Yes, I like that. I like that.
We're a blended family, so she brought in a daughter, and I brought in a few sons as well. So right, we have been there before for the most part, and for them, like you said as well, you got to kind of have to taste test before you because if you get married and you decide to wait until that, actually you don't have to, but you decide to wait until you actually get married and it's no good, then what you gonna do then? that's when you really kind of have to, figure some stuff out.
I've had
So-
friends that have had disasters. I mean, they waited. I mean, I've had wonderful stories as well, but I've also had girlfriends waited till they were in their 30s and 40s, met a wonderful man, married him, and then found out he had ED. You know, it was he didn't tell her he had erectile dysfunction. He didn't tell her that he was diabetic and that he wasn't getting erections anymore. So now you're married to this
So
man.
wait.
You can do
Is there
it.
medication for that?
ED
He
is,
wouldn't.
Cialis,
Well, he
and-
wouldn't do any of the therapies,
no, then
so
you're
they
not
ended
gonna
up
do the
not
medication?
making it. Right? Yeah.
Oh wow.
So we just supposed to,
I don't know what he thought we were supposed to do.
and that's serious. I mean,
Yeah,
if
it
you're talking
is.
about medical stuff that can be going on in folks and can affect your
Right.
sex life. So, and especially since
You got to at least make sure it's lead in the pencil, even if you ain't using the pencil.
I'm forward. I'm trying to get myself together because somebody might would have had the. Ooh, they say life and death.
Gracious.
So,
serious.
like in the church that I grew up in, and I don't agree with this, and I do want y'all's opinion on this. Where I grew up, it was, you're gonna wait until you get married, and I'm gonna prove to you that it's going to be great because when God, this is what was taught, when God ordains your union and He's put that union together, and you all were obedient and waiting on Him, He will ensure that your sex life is great. It will be great because you
I've
have
heard
waited, and
that,
that's
yeah.
what how I was raised. Now, granted, I don't have no friends like you, Shanti. I don't know anybody that waited until marriage.
I know a couple.
I know
I don't have any in my
I'm with you,
circle.
Patrice.
I
Neither
feel like
do
a
I.
heathen.
Yeah,
then.
I hung up with the wrong crowd, obviously.
Birds of a feather.
Include my current pastor who did that and had some great success. So
Waited until marriage.
More power to
Wrote
you,
a book
brother. More
about it.
power to you.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
their story and they're sticking to it.
right, right.
Because I mean, nobody knows.
You're right. Unless
Because you weren't
unless you
there.
have a child. And so that's like where the cutoff was for us. And I want to kind of hit this, real quick too. So in my church, we knew that there was, when I was a teenager, we knew who was all having sex because we were all talking about it. Like the adults maybe didn't know. But there was one particular individual, and I shouldn't even share it, but I ain't saying
don't say the name. Don't say the name.
I would never do that. There was one girl in the group, and she was like pregnant like every year from like 15. She might still be having lots of babies the last time I checked. And so it was obvious to the church members that she was having sex because she was having babies. And I remember her being put out of the choir. And meanwhile, though,
down.
her baby daddy was in the church and participating, and he was good
Double
because
standard.
it was like, well, he don't have the baby, you got the baby. I remember there was one point she was
We
actually
hit
put
it.
out of church.
Wow.
Yes, teenagers. Talking about putting out of church, the very place it's supposed to be for people to come and get healed and get what you need. But she was put out, and there was lots of it was terrible. Lots of scrutiny that she faced, and I never agreed with it. Especially being that we were all doing it, and we all knew we were doing it, but she was the only one
They got caught out there.
because she had had a baby.
Well, the adults that's doing all that were doing it.
Yeah, they were.
What?
That's the thing that, used to kill me because there's nothing new under the sun.
Nope.
Right.
Okay, well, it's not like sex out of marriage just started with us.
Right.
I mean, that's been happening since the beginning.
Yeah.
And it really, and I tell you, I talk. Okay, so I've always been deemed the mouthy one. And so I would just voice my opinion. I would just tell people, okay, so like, how are you finna go and point the finger at me about having a child out of wedlock when I know that you had, and I would go ahead and say it. My mom would be like, damn, I can't believe you said that. But I found out. So, I mean, you trying to throw me under the bus and make me like seem like I'm a heathen or something in church. But you did the same thing. But now you all purified, minister, a deacon, or whatever, so now it's supposed to be different.
Right.
And we really shouldn't treat people that way.
We shouldn't.
I mean, we really shouldn't. The ultimate standard of God is God's love. That doesn't mean
Greatest
that
commandment.
He just allows everything, but even when there is a consequence, or even when there is a time where God has to say, look, I got to sit you down, it's still out of love.
Yep.
It's not out of trying to degrade someone or demean someone.
Yep.
And to me, that's like that key factor. And I mean, it is a double standard. Like when you said that, like that was the key factor of what I feel like troubles or sets up for failure in sexual activity in marriages, because the thought process is men are to like and love sex, but women are just supposed to be there.
Right. Until we get married. And that was my issue. It was
Even in a marriage, you know, if you hear, like when you hear people talk about, like if that female talks too much about enjoying sex or anything, then they look at that female like, we got to check her out, you know, like, why she enjoying it so much, you know, or, you know, it's supposed to be like the man who does, when that's not true. We're all sexual beings.
God created sex.
We did. He did.
Not
I
to
know he did
mention,
me.
you know, libidos are different within relationships. So you may have a woman who is more amorous than the male. So but that doesn't mean that because the wife is more amorous than the husband that she's to be looked down on, or she should be, you know, what's wrong with her? What's going on with her?
Now, and I don't know, I might have grew up in a different era, but I remember for me, I remember, like I've already stated, that it was like the no sex until marriage. There was no conversations about it other than you don't do it. There was no, if you do decide, this is da-da-da. It was just, don't do it. And if you do it, you're going to hell. But I do remember, it was like the day I got married, then all of a sudden the expectation was, now you got to be a freak for your husband. So it was like,
how you do that?
Right. It was like, it was, and that's my issue. It was like an on off. It was like one day I was supposed to be like this person that never even thought about sex, never considered it, never talked about it, never anything. And then I'm married and now I'm supposed to be a freak. Like, how do I?
Yes.
So that's been my experience. And I want to know from you all. And I think, you know, when we kind of talk about societal influences, because I hear what you're saying in reference to maybe how the people in the church looked at it, but when we're talking about like societal influences, talking about the music that we listen to, the stuff that's on the media, what we're watching on TV, I also think that that's the perception that a woman, you're supposed, like the little saying, a lady in the streets but a freak in the bed, that was pertaining to
Lady
women,
in the streets
right?
and a freak in the sheets. Yeah, that's
yeah,
ludicrous.
You thinking about ludicrous?
Right.
So it's like, you know, how do we transform between the two? So, and Tyra, you might can chime in. I don't know, because we'd like to get your perspective, but I definitely want to hear from our wives. What are your thoughts on how society tells us to be sexually as women?
But even, like, I agree with what you're saying, but even in, like, the songs, or, like, even in the TV shows, okay, so the female, again, that really enjoys sex and understands her sexuality is usually a female that's deemed as somebody that cheats, or somebody that, you know, okay, yeah, they're there with their husband, but the husband ain't enough, so they got to step out. You know, it's not deemed like in mutual, your sexual heighten is with your husband. And it's just the two of you. You know, that picture is not painted as much, in my opinion, from the female perspective. But now from the male perspective, the picture that's painted is, you know, they're allowed to do. And it's accepted. You know, the female's supposed to stay. Or whatever, you know, you deal with how the man, you know, and the man's supposed to be that person that, you know, kind of guides and, you know, dictates how the sexuality is supposed to be, and the woman's supposed to flow with it. And you need to be ready. You need to do what that man wants and how he wants, and, you know, not so much as from the female perspective.
Got you.
Yeah, I was
That's
taught
what
to
you're
function
saying.
at the junction. That's what I was taught. When he is ready, you will be
You be
ready.
ready.
If it gets up, it is your job to
To get it
rise
back
to the
down.
occasion and make the occasion go down. So it was.
I need to be with whoever got with y'all, because that ain't how I was raised. I mean, it was, you know, I would say it was the peer pressure, but it wasn't, I don't say peer pressure, but my peers, like you said earlier, my peers were doing it, so I kind of got into it as well. But there was never, like, for instance, I have a conversation with my boys now, because I think that's important. I knew how I was raised. I knew when I first started having sex that conversation was not really had with me other than in school and in church. So, but I never experienced or never noticed from my point of view that females were told, you need to be ready, or you need to be
that's
this,
not a
that, and the
conversation
third.
for y'all.
Well, I mean, but even
So
for
listen,
a man.
I hate to cut this conversation short. But we're gonna have to wrap up because our time is up. Join us next week as we continue our conversations on sex, intimacy, and spirituality. Thank you for tuning in tonight. Continue to tune in every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Please remember to connect with me by going to Facebook and searching for Marriage Matters WGIV. Like our page to stay abreast topics, comment, and ask us questions. Did you enjoy today's show? If you did, tell someone about it. Show us some love on our Facebook page or via email. Also, if you're interested in being a guest on our show or you want to advertise at a great low rate, give me a call at 704-449-6542. I'm your host, the Marriage Coach, and you've been tuned in to Marriage Matters on WDRB Media and WGIV, the Soul of Charlotte.